Cool.
All right. Well, hi, nice to meet you.
Hey Sam, how's it going? I'm Pratyush.
I have been aware of you guys uh at least since the summer. So really exciting to get to talk to you.
Yeah, awesome. Excited to chat as well. How did you hear about us?
Good question. Um, we started Happypillar about a year ago next week, and at some point in the summer, we did an equity crowdfunding round. As that was
Mhm.
wide, I started looking at uh, funds that might have an interest in child mental health. And yeah, Susa came up. So I don't know if it was a list or if it was like a
Cool.
health list or a pre-seed list. I'm not sure, but yeah, you have
Awesome.
a nebulous list in my mind for a while. So nice to meet you.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I just had a daughter a couple months ago, so obviously child tech to child tech, I don't know if that's a thing. It's like I don't know the phrasing, but it's definitely something I'm interested in because obviously care very much about the world my daughter is coming into. I know you've heard about us a little bit, but happy to give a little bit of context on myself and fund, and then would love to learn about what you're building.
Perfect. How's your exhaustion level if you have a like few month?
She's honestly very good. Like it's the first month was really hard. She's waking up all the time, but I think since the second month and when I got back to work, especially, she's been like really great. Like last night, she slept from 9 to 6, which I think is more than you can ask for. And whoever invented the snoo is a genius because that's been helpful too. So
Yet I've had two kids. I would like to have another kid, and
nice.
if I do, I am going full snoo. It didn't exist with my first, who's 5, and it looks
Yeah.
like, oh my God, it's amazing. We used
Yeah.
the guy, Harvey Karp, but yeah, this snoo looks incredible.
Yeah, it's been really great. So yeah, I consider myself very lucky and very blessed. And yeah, Sophia's been like she's been an amazing daughter. So it's been a great couple months.
That's amazing. Okay, yeah, so tell me about Susa.
Yeah, sure. So I started working at Susa a year and a half ago. Before that, I was a professional poker player. Played for about 6 years and was ranked number 2 in the world for tournaments. I got into startups after that, so I worked on a couple different gaming startups, and then joined Susa. We're a generalist fund, so we invest across a bunch of different sectors. Primarily, I would say our focuses are enterprise SaaS, healthcare, logistics, and fintech, but we're pretty exploratory. We've done defense tech investments, we've done gaming, we've done like pretty much everything. We really care a lot about defensibility. I think that's probably the primary thing we look for is like, hey, as you get bigger, is there something about your technology or your company that makes it harder and harder for others to catch up to you? We usually write seed checks in the $1 to $2 million range. And we also have a growth fund that does Series Bs and Series Cs.
Sounds great. Uh, yeah, so can I just tell you a bit about
Yeah.
Happy Pillar? Yeah,
Yeah, I would love to hear about you and the company.
awesome. So my bio and my co-founder's bio will kind of come out in the
Cool.
story. The way it starts is my son, who is now 5, when he was 4, or his like age 4 appointment, pediatrician appointment,
Yep.
uh, I told the doctor, like, hey, his behavior is kind of not great. Like a lot of tantrums and meltdowns,
Yep.
calls to school. Every time I ask him to do anything, like, hey, it's time for dinner, time for bath, negotiating, fighting, like yeah, we were butting heads. It was really hard. And pretty much everyone I talked to is like, this is normal. That's a 4-year-old. Like, it's just
Yeah.
hard. But also he has had half of his life in a pandemic. His school
Yep.
closes up. And so it was,
Yep.
the doctor said, here's a packet. These are all the play therapists in Austin. Give this a try. I'm in Austin. It was a big packet, no websites. They all had phone numbers. So I called a friend and she was like, do parent child therapy. So I go into parent child therapy with him. And basically, they teach you a daily exercise that you do with your kid. And that daily exercise is playing with them for 5 minutes and speaking to them in a very specific way for those 5 minutes to like provide therapeutic benefits. So specifically, they train you to narrate your child's behavior, narrate their actions, praise their behavior, echo back what they're saying. And in order to allow them to really build attachment, meditate, focus, you're supposed to avoid questions, commands, and criticism for those 5 minutes so that they can really focus. So I was like, oh, yeah, I don't think that'll work, but fine. I'll play with my kid for 5 minutes a day and do those things.
Yeah.
Uh, Gave me like it was revolutionary. It was like magic. I was like, how did we fix him? Um, Once a week I'd go into or Zoom with the therapist, and she would watch us do those sessions, and she would tally our verbal things we were saying and give feedback and be like, well, you described his behavior, you described his actions 3 times, but you also asked him 5 questions about what he was building. So she was giving me and my partner each separately feedback on how we were implementing this kind of daily practice that really is supposed to be like brushing your teeth. Like they recommend doing it every day. That part of the therapy was both super great for me, but it also really reminded me of how the NLP engines were operating in the startup world. I was
Hmm.
worked at a natural language processing startup called Rasa. I was in customer success, but I knew enough about AI that I was like, what she's doing really just looks like uh, an NLP model and algorithm. So very close friend of mine at that company, who is a machine learning engineer and kind of thought leader, I told her like, hey, I'm doing this therapy and it feels like a perfect application for NLP. Can we just like see if we can rebuild it in a model? And we did. And we did an alpha with 50 families. Then we did another alpha with another 50 families. And when I posted in a local Facebook group, like, who wants to try this, therapy alpha test, um, we got a 500-person wait list. So we said
Wow.
we need to make this kind of therapy available to as many kids as possible, and not just white, wealthy,
Hmm.
can take time off during the day and pay $200 a week. We brought on my friend, who is a PCIT LCSW child therapist. Um, and together we built the app. We released it into the App Store. We have almost 3,000 downloads, a really successful public beta with 90% weekly active usage, uh, a few customers as of monetization, a little bit of revenue. We pivoted to a freemium model, and I can pull up a deck, but right now we are raising so that we can. I am not satisfied with parents paying for this. I want it to be, since it is a digital health provision, I want schools to pay,
Hmm.
uh, insurance companies, hospitals. President Biden just signed $300 million in grants, federal grants for child mental health services, specifically looking for scalable ones. And we're providing this behavioral therapy fully scalably using AI. So we're raising to kind of, we've proven interest in D2C with our app users, and so yeah, we won some awards. We have a really great community, but now I want like the big guns to pay for this so that everyone can have access to it. But I will stop there because I imagine any question you have, I will have a slide for, or I can just pull up the app and show it to you, show you the NLP in action, whatever.
Whichever you prefer in terms of the demo or the deck, which way.
I'll demo really quickly because it's just the
Okay,
most
cool.
people like to see natural language processing, especially like now that people are talking a lot about uh, OpenAI's models, and
Mhm.
it's not generative AI, but it does use the natural language processing parts that you see when you do generative AI, which is like that it's using NLP to understand your questions. So
Mhm.
I will put on Do Not Disturb and show you this.
Cool. And when
Share.
you say 90% weekly active usage, can you kind of like delve into that? So basically 90 to 98, or I think it was 98% in the deck,
Yes.
are coming back every week or
Exactly. So yeah, 98% of our 2,200 beta users were logging in at least once a week. That sounds really great for an app and for a beta, and perhaps it is, but for a therapy that you're supposed to do every single day, it was not quite enough for us. But what it did tell us is that the parents liked and needed this app enough. I put my name in as caregiver. Liked and needed it enough to be coming back to it once a week. Our beta didn't have custom notifications. There were a lot of things that we know would drive daily active usage higher, even drive our weekly active usage higher. But what it proved to us is that this wasn't something that parents were downloading once and never using again,
yeah.
going back
Yeah.
in, viewing videos, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the product's never going to be perfect on the first iteration, but I think the most important thing for consumers is just that people are using it anyway, because you're never going to build a perfect product the first time. But if people are using it and coming back to it, it shows that at least there's demand there.
Yeah, that was how we felt. So, um, parents will, over the course of their first week in the app, learn the skills of this kind of therapy. The first time you learn it, it's a very kind of overarching day of one-on-one. This is our therapist, Chloe. Before we set, where is she? There she is. Even runs around a little bit, you are not going to be worried about their safety, your safety. So you are getting lots of short videos with
Yep.
Chloe that how to do these things: narrate, imitate, celebrate, echo. We call them nice skills. Avoid questions, avoid commands, avoid criticism. Those are not now skills. Over the course of the week, before you start your happy time, you deep dive into each skill, watch a 30-second video. But each day you're coming into the app, you set your phone down next to you. My kid likes to press start himself, so we made the button bigger. And then you play alongside them and you start talking to them. And ideally, you're saying something like, I can see that you're building a really tall tower.
Okay.
I want to say, like, I really love how quiet you're being right now. And what else can I say? Oh, I don't want to say any questions, but I may accidentally be like, what are you trying to build over there?
Right, right.
Say like a command like, oh, put that block over here. So we're using automated speech recognition and NLP to identify the parent, uh, what they're saying, whether it's a question, whether it's a command, etc. We basically take the conversation, we diarize the speakers, so we identify how many people are speaking and who's saying what, convert everything to text, strip everything of personally identifiable information, encrypt, send it to our servers, analyze it using NLP. At some point in there, we delete everything that the child said because we're really not analyzing the kid.
Hmm.
And then we generate a readout. We do all of that in about 6 seconds. I talked through the 6 seconds so that just in case, but I got a score of 55. You get a score of 100 by playing for the full 5 minutes,
Yep.
getting 10 narrations, 10 celebrations, 10 echoes, and 0 commands, 0 criticism, and 1 question. Oh, I guess one of the things I thought was a command really wasn't, but that's okay. That's
Yep.
good. But yeah, it is immediate feedback. And we have a freemium model. That was a really quick pivot we did when we monetized in December. You get your most recent happy time information free, but if you want to see previous days, you'd need to buy Happypillar Premium. We currently have about a 30% conversion rate. Same thing with progress. We track number of minutes, hours, days spent doing happy time. But if you pay for premium, you get behavior improvement graphs, so you can see frequency of happy time and track behavioral improvement. All of this is kind of building on the therapy that already exists. We're just delivering it scalably and yeah, kind of improving on how it worked. When I did it with a therapist, she would show me a pretty janky Excel document where
Yeah.
she provided this information to me once a week during our 200 $200 an hour Zoom. And yeah, this is improving on it so much so that we have a handful of therapists who have already kind of bought subscriptions for their clients or just recommended that their clients use the free version and they take a look at it together once a week. So we already have clinicians using it. We already have parents using it. So yeah, that is the demo.
I was going to
And
ask you a couple of questions about the freemium business model, but it just to before we go down that rabbit hole, it sounds like you might be pivoting the business model, so it does it really matter?
so it's the other way around. So we started just with a
Okay.
subscription.
Yeah.
Um, started with subscription and we had a really high number of downloads and signups. And then when they got hit with the immediate paywall,
Yeah.
even with a 1 week free trial, they were falling off. So we were
Yeah.
like, okay, we definitely need to make more of this app free.
Yep.
So about 2 weeks ago, we rolled out this freemium And we're now kind of in the experiment, seeing where they drop off, where they convert, etc. But really, it's just the B2C is just kind of a wedge into the market to make the product as good as it can be.
Yep.
Our goal is to be doing B2B enterprise contracts, like schools, hospitals, and governments.
Cool. And then so the conversion rate you said is 30% of this for the 2200.
30% of our first round of downloads, which was like 500 something, and
Okay.
30% to paying.
Cool. And it's too early to have like sort of like month one, month two cohort retention and stuff like that, right?
It really is, unfortunately. It's exciting because we move fast, but we started monetizing in December,
Yep.
and it's beginning of February. And candidly, we lost power for all of last week here in Austin. So
Okay. Okay.
that was not good with kids, but it
Yeah.
does mean we're behind a week in analysis. So
Cool. And then how did you land on the pricing that you chose, the $15 a month?
good question. We just analyzed kind of similar products and models. So some of our kind of case studies, North Stars, are Huckleberry Sleep app, which you actually should, well, your daughter sounds like she sleeps amazingly, but
Yeah.
it, they
My wife uses it a little bit.
love their model, and it is basically it's a freemium model. They
Yeah.
have kind of complex pricing, but we like the fact that they kind of bring users in, provide the AI for free, and then people, you know, grow accustomed to using it and want more data, and they pay. So they are a case study. Duolingo is another case
Yep.
study about how to gamify doing this therapy and keep people using it. So we looked at Duolingo, Huckleberry, and then a bunch of meditation apps, Calm, Headspace, Bloom, etc. So between the five of those, or I guess Huckleberry, Duolingo, and meditation, we used all of that information to come up with the 14.99, 140 $9.99 for the year. Basically, we wanted parents to feel like if they're paying for it, like they would use it. But we also knew that it's really just an experiment, and our goal is to like provide this via the school psychologist, via the hospital wait list. LA County has a Headspace, or no, it's a Calm membership for everyone who works or lives in LA County. We would love for, every kindergartner in California or whatever to get a Happypillar login for their parents.
Cool. Yeah, let's talk about that go to market then. I mean, it sounds like it's early on that side, but how do you think about that strategy? Like who would be the buyer you'd be targeting? What are the size of the contracts? Or how would you price those?
This really is the reason we're raising, is
Mhm.
because we have runway and could continue as a B2C app, and wouldn't need to raise, but we want to raise so that we can sustain to really experiment with these longer sales cycles.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what pricing will look like, but what we have started to do with our B2B consumer perk deals as we're negotiating them, is take a look at a yearly subscription of Happypillar and say that if the individual that the entity is providing it to were paying for it themselves, it would cost $149 a year. We are selling it to you for 50% off of that, and providing you, for 100,000 subscription logins, it's this many $1 million in value for this much money, volume based, discount based on how many they're purchasing. So right now for our big B2B contract that we're negotiating, we are looking at a 50% volume discount. But what we haven't figured out, and I think schools, governments, and hospitals will be more into this, is like, how does this work with renewal? Is it a multi-year contract? Does it grow based on, usage? Do we do it on a trial basis? We both come from
Mhm.
enterprise SaaS
Yeah.
dev tools companies, so we're used to larger scale deals.
Yeah.
Uh, we haven't really done the B2G part of that. So again, raising so that we have some runway and lead time to learn how to do that well. And to be honest, also looking for investors, the right investor that has seen that done with larger kind of health tech companies.
Hmm.
Uh, Thoughts on it?
Cool. And then what do you see as the competitive landscape here?
Oh, that is a great question. So, we feel like our big moat is our technology. Maddie, my co-founder, is big in the natural language processing world, and we have created technology that can analyze any two-person conversation. So we would love that to include couples therapy, other kinds of behavioral therapy, maybe manager and employee conversations, or white labeling the whole tool for children's hospitals, etc., could be used in a therapist's workflow augmentation, law, mediators, etc. But our kind of competitive moat right now is the fact that between our two alphas and our large beta and now our live launch, we have almost 20,000 minutes of real interaction data between parents and children. So that kind of, if anyone were to try to kind of build this therapy into an app, they need to collect a bunch of data to make the models accurate. And even parent and child interaction conversations, it is a two-person interaction, so it could be used to start to train these models before releasing those kinds of modalities. As far as a competitive landscape with child mental health apps, I actually think, I mean, obviously, you can't say like you have no competitors, but the people who are out there now are typically offering it's like a marketplace or a connection
Mhm.
service that connects you with a real therapist.
Right.
And that's definitely more convenient than going to see someone in person. And often they handle the complexities of insurance, and just, make it really easy for parents. And in that way, they're improving accessibility. But pricing does not look that different with telehealth versus in person. And
Right.
we're so scalable that we can offer this at a very low price. But what it really means, we think, is that we could eventually, and we'd like to, maybe partner with some of these child mental health offerings like Little Otter or Brightside or Manatee or LME. They all offer in-person therapy, and we explicitly don't,
Mhm.
so that we can be scalable. But there will definitely be situations where our users will say like, okay, I am not, my problem is not solved by these daily exercises. I have a kid with a serious issue. I need a real therapist. And rather than competing with those groups, I think we'd love to partner with at least one of them.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
that makes sense. Um, what do you think defines a healthy company culture?
Oh, that is such a good question. I have not been asked that in any pitch. Um, I like am a weirdo who loves people, and I feel like at a company, if you feel safe enough to look dumb,
Mm,
uh, then a lot of the things people do at work that feel uncomfortable to other people are really just being done to protect one's own ego, sense of self,
yeah,
feeling like they might not look like they've got it all together. So they're be feeling safe to be yourself, whether that's a successful self on, day one, or I don't know, day one, but successful today, made a dumb mistake tomorrow. If you feel safe enough to be just to make mistakes and be dumb, uh, yeah, that's the kind of culture I want. Uh, and you kind of don't have a lot of the like hiding of lack of knowledge, hiding of mistakes. I've never started a company before. I've worked in a handful of startups.
yeah,
I've worked
yeah,
at lots of companies. I am able to Google things, but yeah, I've never started a company. So I want to be as open with, we're a three-person company now, but as open with these three as I will be with, the first 20, and say like, you joined a startup. I'm a first time founder. Like, let's make mistakes together, because then we can pivot really fast and learn from them. We already did that with like releasing a subscription app and saying, oh yeah,
yeah,
parents will do this week and then they'll pay. And then we were like, oh no, they see pay and they walk away. So if we can, admit defeat really fast, pivot and learn from it, that feels like the kind of culture I want. It also feels like one where if people just feel safe, they're hopefully happier.
yeah, and probably more innovative. Like I think if something fails or doesn't work out, and the whole organization is around like shifting blame or trying to avoid taking responsibility, or it's like hard to be innovative or take risk because yeah, everyone's just like stuck in like covering for themselves.
I mean, why would you even propose a risk if you knew that it going wrong would result in a blame culture and feeling like you had to do penance or apologize? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It seeds innovation to feel kind of safe to be yourself.
Exactly. What was your biggest failure in life and how did you recover from it?
Oh, wow. My biggest failure in life. God, you're only a few months in, but every day I feel like a failure parent. And it
Yeah.
feels like even the smallest failures are the biggest in my life. I mean, I'm sure I could tell you about things I fucked up at work. And they just don't matter once you have
Yeah.
kids. I don't I'm I don't think that I am like abusing my children, but yeah, every day I feel like I could cry, like giving the right amount of attention to one versus the other. So every failure, when you say biggest failure in my life, I can already just think of things that I've done or things I've said to my kids that I regret, and I know they'll be fine, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's the answer you wanted, but
Yeah, no, no, it gives me some insight. What do you think is something you're better at than any of your peers, like other founder CEOs?
oh, that is an easy one. I have a crazy memory. I remember anything anyone's ever said to me. Someone from a previous job just texted me recently to ask the name of our previous boss's cat. She was only my boss for 3 months. Haven't spoken to her in a year, and I remembered her cat's name. Doesn't usually help me when I'm Facebook stalking people and then I know details about them when I see them at parties years later, but it definitely helps with founding because I'm learning a ton of things all the time, meeting a
Mm.
ton of people, remembering where I read something or where I learned something that's helped a lot.
What's your favorite book currently?
Favorite book currently. Okay, I just finished a book that I loved so much, so I'm going to use this one. I did not read A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan, but I just read The Candy House by Jennifer Egan, and it's a sequel to that, but they're not the same. And it centers around a company that's like basically like a Facebook that innovated something where you can upload all of your memories to a collective consciousness, and everybody can watch everyone else's memories. And then there are like people who don't want to upload their memories to the collective consciousness. And really, I guess that's sort of what social media is becoming this collective consciousness of memories. Um, and God, I just posted about it on Instagram, and like a bunch of people messaged me, and they were like, "I just read it too. It's so good." So Steak House.
Okay,
I read it
interesting.
the power outage with a shivering 5-year-old in my bed, Kindle open because no power, and I read it till 1 a.m. I like couldn't put it down.
Wow, okay, sounds really good. Who's a business leader you admire the most?
Ooh, that is good. So this is an easy one. So one of our first investors, angel investors, her name is Rana El Kalyubi. She's the CEO of Smart Eye. They used to be called Affectiva. They have created like computer vision glasses. The first innovation of them helped autistic people and children with reading facial expressions.
Mhm.
So the glasses did that and then communicated. I don't fully know the technology, but Smart Eye is the name of the company now, and they're working on like computer vision driving assistance. But she is an AI leader. She's a woman and she's a mom. And yeah, just the way she communicates with us, like she's probably got a million companies she's invested in. She's a big, CEO. She has assistants. She has a ton going on. She emails us back immediately. She calls us. She makes us feel better about bad things, bolsters our she just like is the kind of person I want to be. If she's like this to a small company that she has an angel check into, I can only imagine how great she is in any other way. She's also written a really cool book called Girl Decoded. She's just like so cool. So she's, yeah, it's her.
That's awesome. Um, you mentioned like this is the first company you've started, right? What's the motivation there, and like what's the reason for doing this versus like going to work at a different startup?
Yeah, so I never thought that I would start anything. That I am sort of slowly learning about like this founder culture and like people who want to be founders. Like it just did not occur to me that that was a thing I could or would do. When I discovered sort of that this therapy could be built with AI, it felt like I don't know, somebody said this to me at a wedding a couple months ago that he was like, it's kind of like fuck you if you don't do this, right? Like it
Mm.
felt like something like sorry to show me watchers that I swore, but like I can't not try to build something that helps these poor children who have been ravaged by global pandemic, gun violence. It's a shitty time to be a kid. And so I'm to any investor thinking about me, I'm a first time founder. I'm going to make a million mistakes. And I think it's a good technological investment and I think it's a good business investment, but a lot of it, and the reason I left my job and want to do it is like to improve mental health outcomes for kids. That is the North Star, of if the North Star is just money or technological innovation, I could go to any startup.
Yeah.
I have worked at deep tech startups my whole career. Really like being super dev adjacent. My co-founder is, big famous developer. Like I could go do innovation and money easily. I wanted to do this and start this because of kids. I mean, you learned this a few months ago, like changes everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Maybe we can wrap up and talk about the
Yeah,
fundraise a little bit. So how much are you raising and what do you plan? What are your goals with the money?
great question. So we are raising 1 million. We currently have investments from Hustle Fund and AI Operators Fund and a couple other uh, cool CEOs who we've known in our past. We want to get to 1 million in revenue by Q3 of 2025 or sooner for all of these. And that revenue ideally comes mostly from B2B contracts. By the end of next year, we want to hit 10,000 users. I actually think that's a really conservative goal. I think we could hit that much, much, much sooner, but wanted to give ourselves leeway. Most important thing we want to do is offer this in more languages. So we've built it in English. The way NLP works, you can sub in models for other languages pretty easily. You can even add multiple models for families that kind of speak Spanglish or, two languages at once. So financially, it would be pretty easy to make that switch. What we want to use part of the investment for is making sure it's culturally competent, and that we're not simply, running a whole app through Google Translate, but we're really talking to therapists who speak the language that we choose to add and making sure it really is thinking about the culture of whatever language we're releasing to. One will definitely be Spanish. I'm not sure what the second will be. We'll look at kids who need it, what they speak, where they are, that kind of stuff. And then an additional modality, my co-founder is like my very dear best friend. And she is now the aunt to my children. They love her more than they love me, but she doesn't have kids. And something we talked about a lot in the beginning is that this kind of process could really work with couples therapy. So we'd like to add another modality by the end of next year. And we think couples would be a really cool use case. 2 reasons. It allows us to get a bunch of other customers who don't have kids, but it also takes a look at all the customers who already have kids, who know Happypillar and love it and get the concept. And we get to say to them, hey, you do this with your kid. It's made things better. Try it with your partner.
Hmm.
Different prompts, different things to say, but we'll give you feedback immediately.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, but it seems like an easily extensible second product. That makes sense.
Exactly. Exactly.
If we, fast forward a couple of years and you don't hit these goals, what do you think are the main reasons why?
Oh, that's a really good question. Um, ooh, uh, I why would we not have hit them? I think honestly, if we don't hit these goals, it's because we wrote them in a vacuum, and didn't they weren't written as like what our customers want, what the market is telling us. At some point, when you make goals, it's to propel you along. Um, all of our user acquisition goals changed when we changed to this freemium model. If we don't meet them, I think it's because we'll have listened to the large scale customers, the schools saying we'll buy this if X, and then that becomes our new goal.
Mhm.
Because we want to be, self-sustainable and not rely on tons of investment. And that's listening to your customers. And if your customers are saying that additional modalities or languages are not exactly what will make them buy and make them use, we change those goals.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Awesome. Do you have any questions for me?
I'll just say we're raising 1 million, but at the right price and terms, we could raise more. We have some investors already who we're always happy to put people in touch with. We're kind of flexible. We have runway and we're doing okay. We really just want the right kind of partner. So if you have a second, I think we're almost out, but I would just love to know how you guys work with founders.
Yeah, I think that's something we really try to pride ourselves on. So, I would say in terms of like the check-in cadence, it's kind of up to you in terms of preference. So some founders want to check in every 2 weeks, some want to check in 4 weeks, some want to check in once a quarter. We kind of just like base it on the level of engagement the founder would like. And obviously we're available by email or text, regardless. But the check-in call is usually somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes. We catch up with the first part, maybe 10 minutes as just an update on the business. And then the rest would be like diving into strategic questions you're asking us or like help you might need. I think investors can hopefully help with a few different things. Like number one would be follow on capital. So like when you're going out to raise your next round, we obviously will try to help with that process. I think the typical seed to Series A rate is about 30%. Ours is 70%. So we really pride ourselves on being able to help you raise that next round. And then the other parts where we can try to help out is like introduction to potential customers. In this case, I guess it would be more like schools, governments, things like that. We do have a pretty big network across our investment team. So I think things like that would be helpful. And then the last part is community. So we try to help you out by introducing you to a bunch of other founders in our community. So we have about I think 150 companies that we've invested across 10 years, and we try to get people together in person as much as possible. Like next month, we have an event in Aspen where we're getting together a bunch of our founders, and then like we try to do like a bunch of in-person events as much as possible. Just so a lot of times, we can give you some ideas on go-to-market and strategy and things like that, but a lot of times founders have like a better answer, and we'll just try to get you in touch with somebody else in our portfolio.
I love already so far. I love talking to other founders,
Yeah,
especially other female founders, because it's hard to be a female founder, but just in general, that's been one of the best parts of this is meeting other founders like Mindy. So
yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
yeah. So okay, great. So yeah, I think if you have any questions or ever want to hear more, you know where to find me. And I know Sophia is very little, but in 2 years, feel free to download Happypillar from the App
That's
Store, or
great.
you could, it's free and it works. You could download it today and play around with it. See how you talk to.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting part. I think I ask a lot of questions. I'm just curious about that like modality or just like how that would be
And
something to like learn in advance of actually going and doing it, right?
especially because like it's okay to ask, and Chloe says this in the training, it's okay to ask questions in
Yeah,
general. We're just trying to give kids 5 minutes of their day
yeah,
where they lead the whole conversation. What they want to do or say goes. Because yeah, I spend the whole day asking my kids questions.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
oh, come over here right now. Like, just this is just 5 minutes where we all slow down, connect, breathe, think. So yeah, so don't worry about asking her too many questions. You could never ask her too many questions, but you'll
Sounds good. Sounds good.
yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.
questions and enjoy the journey. It's crazy and horrible and amazing. Whatever.
Yeah,
All of
thank you. Thanks for taking the time.
talk to you soon.
Bye.